They said the war ended 100 years ago. They were wrong. No crops grow on Halveth Plain. No birds circle its skies. Even the wind seems to forget its path when it reaches that scar of earth, as if the land itself refuses to remember what came before, or what still lingers beneath. Oren Vask has walked battlefields before. He has buried friends in mud that swallowed their names. He has learned how silence settles after slaughter. But this silence is different. This silence is waiting. He came for coin, a noble's commission. Measure the land, mark its boundaries, decide whether ghosts could be ignored long enough to build something new. Simple work. Until the sun began to die, until the ground began to breathe, until the dead stood up, not as spirits drifting through memory, but as soldiers, formed, armed, fighting, again and again and again, locked in the final moments of a battle that never found its end. They do not remember losing. They do not remember winning. They only remember the need to fight, and something beneath the soil is making sure they never forget that. But Oren sees what they cannot: the pattern, the fracture, the lie carved into the bones of the world. This war was not unfinished. It was taken, its ending stolen, and now, to give it back, someone must pay the price. This is the war that refused to end. Chapter 1. Where the Earth Still Bleeds. The road to Halveth Plain did not end. It simply gave up. The packed dirt thinned to scattered stone, then to brittle grass the color of old bone. Beyond that, nothing grew. No trees, no shrubs, not even the stubborn weeds that claimed every other forgotten road in the kingdom. The land ahead stretched wide and flat, beneath a dim, colorless sky, as if the world itself had been scraped thin. Oren Vask reined in his horse at the edge. The animal refused to take another step. "I'm not asking you to like it," Oren muttered, swinging down from the saddle. His boots struck the ground with a dull, hollow sound, not the firmness of soil, but something packed too tight, pressed, compacted, as if the earth had been trampled beyond its right to breathe. The horse snorted, ears pinned back, eyes rolling white. It pulled against the reins, desperate to turn. Oren let it. "Go, then." The animal did not hesitate. It wheeled and fled down the broken road, hooves striking faster than fear should allow. Within moments, it was gone, a fading echo swallowed by distance. Oren stood alone at the threshold of Halveth Plain. He had stood on battlefields before. Too many. There was a way the air usually felt after war. Thick with rot and memory, yes, but softened by time. Grass grew, bones sank. The world forgot, slowly, mercifully. This place had not been granted that mercy. He stepped forward. The first few paces felt wrong in a way he could not name. The ground did not shift beneath him. It did not accept his weight. It resisted, as though each step required permission the land had no desire to give. Wind brushed across the plain, faint, uneven. It carried no scent, no decay, no life, just absence. Oren adjusted the satchel at his side, pulling free a rolled map sealed with the noble's sigil. Lord Karthus wanted this land measured, parceled, tamed. A grand estate, the letter had said, a monument to progress. Oren almost laughed. "You can't build over a wound," he said to no one. The words fell flat. Even his voice seemed swallowed, stripped of echo. He walked deeper. Hours passed, or perhaps less. Times stretched strangely here, as though it too had been caught in whatever held the field in place. The sun hung low but unmoving, its light thin and distant. Then Oren saw them. Not bodies, impressions. Shallow depressions in the earth, thousands of them. Shapes where armor had once pressed into soil, where limbs had fallen, where men had died. The ground remembered. He crouched beside one, brushing his fingers along its edge. The soil was cold. Not the cool of shade, but something deeper, older. Packed too tight, he murmured. Too many at once. A battle of this scale should have left more. Broken weapons, rusted helms, something. There was nothing. No relics, no remains. As if the field had consumed everything. Oren straightened slowly, unease coiling tighter in his chest. That was wrong. Even the poorest armies left something behind. Unless a sound cut through the stillness. Metal. Distant, faint, but unmistakable. Oren froze. It came again. The scrape of steel against steel. Then a shout. He turned toward the heart of the plain. Nothing. Only empty land stretching beneath the dim sky. The sound came a third time. Louder now. Closer. Not memory. Not echo. Oren's hand moved to the hilt of his sword without thought. Old instincts, long buried, rising like something dragged from deep water. "Show yourself," he called. The wind shifted, and the world broke. The light dimmed as though swallowed whole. The color drained from the sky, leaving a bruised twilight in its wake. The ground beneath Oren's feet shuddered, not violently, but with a slow, rolling tremor, like something vast turning in its sleep. Then the soil opened. Not with cracks, with breath. The depressions he had seen began to deepen, edges sharpening, widening, becoming graves that had never been dug. And from them, hands, pale, armored, broken. They clawed upward in silence. Oren staggered back, heart slamming against his ribs. He had seen death. Gods! He had dealt it himself more times than he cared to remember. But this was wrong. One figure pulled itself free, then another, then dozens more. Armor formed where there had been none. Blades coalesced from nothing, catching what little light remained. No rot, no decay. They were as they had been in their final moment. A horn sounded, low, commanding. The figures turned as one, and charged. The battlefield erupted into motion. Lines formed with impossible precision, shields locked, spears lowered. On the opposite side of the plain, more figures rose, answering the call, forming their own ranks. 2 armies, reborn. Oren stumbled backward, caught between them as they collided with a force that shook the ground. Steel rang out, men shouted, horses screamed, and yet there was something missing. No blood spilled. Blades struck, but the wounds did not linger. Bodies fell, then flickered, resetting, rising again. The same movements, the same strikes, over and over, a loop. "They don't see me," Oren whispered. A soldier rushed past him, eyes fixed ahead, unseeing. Another slammed into him, shield first. Oren braced for impact, and the man passed through him like mist. Cold, empty, not real, and yet entirely present. Oren turned slowly, taking in the chaos. He knew these formations. Gods help him. He knew them. "The third phalanx," he breathed, watching the shield wall tighten. "That's..." His gaze snapped to the opposing line. No, it couldn't be. The banners flickered into existence above the clashing ranks, tattered, spectral things, but clear enough. 2 sigils, 2 armies, both long dead, both from the same war. Oren's war. His stomach turned. "I was here," he said, voice hollow. "Not in this exact place, not at the heart, but close enough. Close enough to remember how it ended, or how it should have ended." The charge broke. The soldiers staggered, and then, as one, they froze. The world snapped. The light returned. The armies vanished. Silence crashed down over the plain once more. Oren stood alone again, breath ragged, hands trembling. No bodies, no weapons, no sign that anything had happened at all. Only the impressions in the earth. Only the absence. He swallowed hard, forcing his thoughts into order. "This isn't haunting," he said. "It's repetition. A memory without an ending. A battle that refused to conclude." Oren looked toward the center of the field, where the clash had been fiercest, where the lines had broken. Something pulled at him from that direction. Not sound, not sight, something deeper. A wrongness that demanded witness. He tightened his grip on his sword. "If you're trapped," he murmured, eyes fixed on the distant heart of Halveth Plain, "then something is holding you." The wind stirred again, faint, almost like a whisper. Oren took a step forward, then another, toward the center, toward the truth buried beneath a war that had never been allowed to end. Chapter 2. The Name They Cannot Remember. Oren did not sleep. The plain did not allow it. Night came without stars. The sky darkened, but it did not deepen. It simply dulled, like a blade worn blunt from too much use. Even the cold felt incomplete, as though it had forgotten how to bite. He sat with his back to nothing, staring toward the center of Halveth Plain, waiting. It did not take long. The shift came like a breath drawn too sharply. The ground stirred. The air tightened. That same low tremor rolled beneath him. The warning he now understood. "They're coming back," he said quietly. This time, he did not retreat. He stood. The light drained again, and the dead rose to meet it. Hands clawed upward. Armor formed. The horn called. The battle began. But Oren did not watch the charge. He walked into it. The first soldier passed through him, a blur of steel and purpose, eyes locked forward. The second brushed him with a cold that seeped into bone. The third shouted something as he ran past. Oren stopped, turned, listened. The words had been wrong. Not the sound. The voice had been clear, desperate, human, but the meaning. For the soldier had shouted, but the end of it had vanished. Not faded, not lost to distance, erased. Oren stepped deeper into the chaos, forcing himself to ignore the instinct screaming at him to flee. He had fought in battles like this. He knew how quickly men died when they stopped moving. But these men did not die. They repeated. A swordsman lunged at him, or through him, blade cutting air where Oren's chest had been. Oren didn't flinch. He watched the man's face instead. There was no fear there, no hesitation, only certainty, only purpose, and yet something hollow beneath it. "Who are you fighting for?" Oren demanded, stepping into the man's path. The soldier's mouth moved as he struck again. "For..." Again, the word vanished. Oren's pulse quickened. "Say it," he pressed. "Say the name." The soldier faltered, just for a heartbeat. His blade slowed, his brow furrowed, confusion flickering across a face that should not have been capable of doubt. "For..." He tried again. Nothing. The moment snapped. The soldier surged forward, expression resetting into that same relentless certainty, and vanished into the clash. Oren staggered back, breath catching. "They don't know," he whispered. Not just how the battle ended. They didn't know why they were fighting at all. A scream tore through the air. Different. Oren turned toward it. A man lay on the ground, or rather, he was caught in the act of falling. One knee buckled, a spear driven through his side. His form flickered, edges unraveling like smoke caught in wind. Unlike the others, he was not resetting. Not yet. Oren dropped to his knees beside him. "Can you hear me?" The man's eyes snapped to his, and for the first time something looked back. Real awareness. Raw. Terrified. "Yes," the soldier rasped. The voice held. It did not vanish. Oren leaned closer. "What is your name?" The man's lips trembled. I don't." He choked on the words, panic flooding his features. "I don't remember." Oren's chest tightened. "Who do you serve?" The soldier gasped, clutching at Oren's arm, and this time his hand did not pass through. It gripped, cold but solid enough to hold. We were told we would not be forgotten." His voice broke. That it would matter. Oren swallowed. What happened here? The man's gaze darted wildly across the battlefield, as if seeing it for the first time. It never ends," he whispered. "We charge, we fall, we rise. Again, again." His body flickered violently. "Why?" Oren pressed. "What bound you here?" The soldier's grip tightened, desperate now. "There was a ritual," he said, each word dragged from somewhere deep and breaking. "Before the final horn, the commanders, they said it would secure victory, that the enemy would be—" He screamed. The sound tore itself apart mid-breath. His face twisted in agony, as though something unseen had reached inside him and begun to pull. No, I remember." His eyes locked onto Oren's. "They took the ending," he gasped. The word vanished. His form collapsed. Not falling. Unmaking. The soldier dissolved into nothing. The spear, the wound. The man himself unraveling into absence. And then he was back, standing, charging, as if none of it had happened. Oren sat frozen in the dirt, heart hammering. "They took the ending," he repeated under his breath. Not lost, not forgotten, taken. He pushed himself to his feet, turning slowly as the battle raged around him. His mind raced, piecing together what little he had. No bodies recovered, no victor declared, no record of how it ended. "They erased it," Oren said. "Not just from memory, from the world. A war without an ending could not conclude. It could not settle. It could not die. It would repeat, forever." A low hum began to build beneath the chaos. Oren felt it before he heard it. A vibration in the marrow of his bones, in the air itself. It pulsed in time with the clash, with the shouts, with the endless rhythm of the battle. He turned toward the center of the plain, the source. "There's something there," he murmured. "Something anchoring it, feeding it, binding it." The ground beneath his feet seemed to pull at him now, subtle but insistent, like a current beneath still water. Oren took a step. A soldier slammed into him, or through him, nearly knocking him off balance. Another followed, then another. The battle surged, thicker now, more violent, as if it sensed what he was doing. Too late, Oren muttered, forcing his way forward. You've had your century. The air grew heavier with each step. The hum deepened. The soldiers flickered more violently now, their forms less stable, their movements stuttering at the edges, as though something beneath the surface strained to hold them together. Oren pushed on, toward the heart, toward the place where the ending had been stolen, and whatever had taken it. Chapter 3. The Weight of Ending. The closer Oren moved toward the center, the less the battle resembled war. Formations broke, not in strategy, in structure. Lines stuttered, soldiers flickering in and out of existence mid-strike. Blades passed through bodies that were no longer fully there. Voices overlapped, fragments of commands repeating out of rhythm, as though the battlefield itself was losing its grip on the lie it had been forced to tell. And beneath it all, the hum. It had grown into something vast, a pulse, slow, immense, alive. Oren staggered as it pressed against him, each beat dragging at his thoughts, his memories, his sense of self. He tasted iron at the back of his throat. "This is where you buried it," he said, forcing the words past clenched teeth. The ground changed. The packed soil gave way to something darker, not mud, not stone, but a surface too smooth, too uniform, as though the earth had melted here once and hardened again around something it could not consume. The soldiers avoided this place. Even in their endless loop, their charges curved subtly around the center, as if some buried instinct warned them away. Oren stepped into it. The world lurched. The battle dimmed, sounds muffling, light bending inward toward a single point ahead. He saw it then, a banner, driven deep into the heart of the plain. Its pole was blackened iron, twisted as though forged in a fire that had no flame. The cloth that hung from it should have been ruined by time, but instead it moved as though caught in a wind that did not touch the rest of the world, and the sigil upon it changed. It shifted with every glance. One moment a crowned stag, the next a broken sword, then a circle with no beginning or end, no allegiance, no truth, just claim, the banner of unending claim. Oren whispered, the name rising unbidden from memory he did not know he possessed. The hum pulsed stronger in response. He approached slowly, each step heavier than the last. The air thickened, pressing against his chest, forcing his breath shallow. "This is it," he said. "This is what's holding them." Not just holding, feeding. The banner drank from the absence, from the missing ending, from every unanswered question and unresolved purpose left behind when the truth had been stripped away. It needed the war to continue. It needed them to keep fighting, because without an ending, it had everything. Oren reached out. The moment his hand brushed the pole, the world shattered. Not around him, through him. He was no longer standing. He was falling into memory, into fire. The battlefield roared to life in full. Not the hollow repetition he had witnessed before, but the truth, raw, brutal, unbroken. Men screamed as steel tore through flesh. Blood soaked the ground, hot and real. The sky burned with smoke, thick and choking. Oren stood in the midst of it, no longer unseen. He knew this moment. Gods help him. He knew it. The final charge. The moment before everything should have ended. A voice cut through the chaos. "Raise it!" Oren turned. Commanders stood at the center, their armor marked not by one banner, but many. Nobles, generals, men who had no business sharing allegiance, bound together by something deeper than loyalty. Desperation. If we end this cleanly, we lose everything, one of them snarled. The treaties will strip us bare, the crown will fall. And if we don't, another demanded. The first man smiled. Cold, certain. Then it never ends. Oren's blood ran cold. No, he breathed. They drove the banner into the earth, not as a symbol, as a weapon. The moment it struck, the world broke. The clash froze. Time stuttered, and something vast and unseen reached down, taking hold of the moment itself and tearing its ending away. Oren felt it. The absence. A wound in reality, carved clean and deep. The soldiers cried out, not in pain, but in confusion, as their purpose unraveled. Why are we fighting? Who are we fighting for? The questions formed, and were taken, swallowed. The battle resumed, but not as it had been, not whole, never whole again. Oren gasped as the vision tore away, the present slamming back into place around him. He fell to his knees at the base of the banner, hands shaking. They did this, he said hoarsely. They chose this. Not the soldiers, the men in power. They had sacrificed truth for control, stripped the war of its ending so they would never have to face its consequences. And in doing so, they had condemned thousands to fight forever. The banner pulsed beneath his grip. It knew he understood. It welcomed him. "You see now," a voice whispered. Oren's head snapped up. No one stood there. And yet the voice lingered, curling through the air like smoke. This is what victory looks like without cost. Oren's jaw tightened. This isn't victory. It is survival. The banner's cloth twisted, the shifting sigil settling for just a moment into something almost recognizable. A crown split down the middle. They would have lost everything, the voice continued, their power, their legacy, their world. And instead, they lost their souls. Oren shot back. A pause. Then, they were never asked to give them. The hum surged. The battlefield around them began to destabilize, soldiers flickering more violently now, their forms breaking at the edges, as the truth pressed closer to the surface. "They cannot be released," the voice said, "not without consequence." Oren stared at the banner. "I know." The choice settled into him like a blade, clear, unavoidable. "If I destroy you," he said slowly, "the ending comes back." Yes, and with it, everything that was taken. The full weight of the battle, the voice agreed. Every death, every scream, every truth. Oren could see it, feel it. The moment rushing back into the world, uncontained. It would not stay here. It would spread. The land beyond Halveth Plain would feel it. The violence, the memory, the sheer force of what had been denied. Villages, cities, all of it touched by a war that had never properly ended. "And if I don't?" he asked. The banner pulsed. "Then you take my place." Oren's breath caught. "You become the anchor," the voice said. "Not as they were, not as a lie." The sigil shifted again. Now it held steady. A single figure standing against the weight of many. "You would hold them here," the voice continued. "Contain the war, Give it structure. Give it purpose. Keep them trapped, Oren said. Keep the world safe. Silence stretched between them. Oren looked out across the battlefield. The soldiers still fought, still died, still rose. Over and over. They deserve an ending, he said. They deserve peace. And the living, the voice asked softly, do they deserve what that peace will cost? Oren closed his eyes. He had spent a lifetime surviving war, outliving it, trying to leave it behind. But war did not end when the fighting stopped. It lingered, in memory, in consequence, in the things men chose not to face. He opened his eyes. The banner waited. The battlefield trembled, and Oren Vask understood. There was no clean answer, only the weight of choosing which truth the world would be forced to carry. Chapter 4. What the living owe the dead. The banner waited. It did not sway now. It did not shift. It simply stood, rooted in the wound it had carved into the world, drinking in the endless war it had created. Oren Vask stared at it, breath slow, deliberate, as though each inhale might be his last as a man who still belonged to himself. Around him, the battlefield frayed. Soldiers flickered mid-strike, their forms tearing at the edges. Some faltered, hesitation creeping into movements that had repeated for a century. A blade paused, a shield lowered. Questions were beginning to return, and the banner trembled. You feel it, Oren said quietly. The hum answered, not in words, in pressure, in resistance. It did not want to end. Of course it didn't. An ending meant consequence. Oren stepped closer. His boots sank slightly into the darkened ground now, the hardened surface softening, as if the land itself sensed what was coming. I've spent my life walking away from battlefields, he murmured, convincing myself that surviving was enough. A soldier stumbled nearby, clutching at his head. Why are we? The man gasped, voice cracking. The rest vanished. Oren closed his eyes. No more, he said, and he reached for the banner. This time, it did not pull him into memory. This time, it resisted. The iron burned beneath his grip, not with heat, but with something colder, deeper, a rejection, a refusal to be undone. You would break what holds them, the voice returned, strained now. You would unleash what was contained. They were never meant to be contained, Oren said. The battlefield shuddered. The hum surged, pressing against him, into him, trying to force his hand away. You will not survive it. Oren gave a thin, humorless smile. I wasn't planning to. He tightened his grip. The banner screamed. Not a sound, a force. The world split. The battlefield erupted into truth. Not the hollow repetition, not the fractured loop, the real ending. It came all at once. The clash returned in full, steel biting flesh, bodies breaking, men dying with the weight of finality behind every strike. The sky darkened, smoke and fire choking the air. And the memories, gods, the memories, they flooded back into the dead. The soldiers staggered. Some dropped their weapons, eyes wide as recognition crashed into them. We're losing, one shouted. Another turned, horror dawning. No, no, we already... The truth struck them like blades. You died here. This is where it ended. This is where you were forgotten. Cries rose across the field. Grief, rage, relief, all tangled together. Some fell to their knees, weeping. Some screamed and charged anyway, clinging to the last fragments of purpose they had left. The war did not resume. It concluded. Violently, completely. The ending, once stolen, tore through the world with nothing left to restrain it. Oren felt it rip through him. Every death, every wound, every unanswered question finally given its answer. It was too much. It was everything. He held the banner as it unraveled beneath his hands, the iron cracking, the cloth disintegrating into ash that did not fall, but vanished. "You could have contained it," the voice whispered, fading now. "You could have spared them this pain." Oren shook his head, blood spilling from his lips. "Pain is part of the ending," he rasped. "It's what makes it real." The banner shattered, and the world broke open. The force of it surged outward from Halveth Plain, not as fire, not as destruction, but as memory made manifest. The truth of the battle spread like a storm, without wind, racing across the land. Oren fell to his knees. The battlefield around him changed. The soldiers, they were fading, not resetting, not reforming, fading, one by one. Some looked relieved. Some looked lost. Some looked at Oren, truly looked at him. "Thank you," a voice said. Oren turned. The soldier from before, the one who had spoken, who had remembered, stood before him once more. This time there was no flicker, no unraveling, just a man at the end of his war. "I remember," the soldier said softly. Oren nodded, unable to speak. "We lost," the man continued. "We broke. We ran." His voice trembled, but we fought for each other. He met Oren's gaze. That was enough. Oren swallowed hard. "Yes," he said, "it was." The soldier gave a faint, weary smile. Then he was gone. The rest followed. The battlefield emptied. Not all at once, not cleanly, but truly. Silence settled over Halveth Plain once more, different this time. Not hollow, not waiting, complete. Oren lay on the darkened ground, staring up at a sky that had finally remembered how to hold stars. His body felt distant, fading. The cost had not been avoided. It had simply been accepted. He thought of the noble who had sent him, of the estate that would never be built here, of the truth now loose in the world, the real ending of a war powerful men had tried to erase. There would be consequences. There always were. Oren exhaled slowly. "For what it's worth," he murmured to the empty plain, "I'm sorry it took this long." The wind moved across the field. This time, it carried something with it. Not absence, not silence, but rest. Oren Vask closed his eyes, and for the first time in a very long while, he did not rise again. The end. Thank you for listening. If the war that refused to end pulled you in, there are more worlds waiting for you, more stories that refuse to stay buried. Until next time, my friend.